In the heart of a remote African village, nestled between rolling hills and ancient baobab trees, lived a man named Kofi. As you begin to imagine this village, perhaps feeling the warm African sun on your skin and hearing the distant rhythmic sounds of village life, you might find yourself drawn deeper into Kofi's world, a world both familiar and extraordinary. Kofi was not wealthy by conventional standards, but as you'll discover, wealth manifests in many forms. His hands were calloused. From years of tilling other people's land, yet these same hands gently cradled his children each night. While he owned no farm of his own, he possessed something far more valuable, a loving family that filled his modest home with laughter and warmth. Each morning, as the golden sun painted the sky with hues of amber and crimson, Kofi would rise, his spirit unbroken despite the challenges that awaited him. His wife, Amma, beautiful both in appearance and spirit, prepared for her day at the village market, where she sold colorful vegetables and ripened fruits. Her smile, radiant and genuine, drew customers to her small stand. As you envision her, arranging her goods with care, you might notice how the vibrant colors of her wares mirror the richness of their family life. Together, Kofi and Amma had created a beautiful family, two strong sons named Kwame and Ni, and a daughter, Adwoa, whose laughter could lighten even the heaviest heart. Can you sense, as you immerse yourself in their story, how love flowed through their humble home like a gentle river, nurturing everyone it touched? Each evening, when shadows lengthened across the village, Kofi would return home, his body weary, but his heart full. As he approached his dwelling, the sound of his family's voices would reach him, pulling him forward, drawing him into the embrace of those who loved him unconditionally. Amma would greet him with a warm meal, and his children would rush to him, their eyes shining with admiration. In these moments, Kofi felt truly wealthy, rich in ways that gold could never measure. As you continue to follow Kofi's journey, you might find yourself wondering about the true nature of wealth and happiness. What does it mean to be truly prosperous? Is it measured by the coins in one's pocket or by the love in one's heart? Kofi had many acquaintances in the village, many called friends. Yet unlike Kofi, they measured worth in material possessions. As the seasons changed and harvests came and went, these men, with their expanding granaries and growing herds, began to distance themselves from Kofi. His simple life and modest means became reasons for their scorn rather than their respect. Pain of rejection settled deep within Kofi's heart, a weight he carried silently. "My family is what matters most," he would whisper to himself in the quiet hours of the night, the words becoming a mantra that sustained him one vibrant market day, alive with the sounds of commerce and conversation. The village gathered for a feast to celebrate a bountiful harvest. Kofi, hoping to reconnect with old friends, attended with a hopeful heart. As he approached the gathering, he saw familiar faces, men with whom he had once shared stories and laughter. They waved him over, their gestures seemingly welcoming, and Kofi, his spirits lifting, joined them. For a brief golden moment, it felt like old times. They ate together, the flavors of the shared meal amplified by the joy of companionship. But as the plates emptied and bellies filled, something shifted. One of his former friends, Jabari, a man whose wealth had grown as quickly as his arrogance, stood up and said words that would burn into Kofi's memory. "Kofi, since you are not as wealthy as us, you should clear away the plates." The words hung in the air, heavy and poisonous. Kofi felt them like a physical blow, a public humiliation designed to remind him of his place. "We are all friends," Kofi replied, his voice steady, despite the storm within. "And I am older than all of you. Just because I don't have as much wealth doesn't mean you can treat me this way. Everyone should clear their own plate." But his words fell on deaf ears. His supposed friends laughed, their eyes cold with contempt. "If you don't clear the plates," Jabari threatened, "we'll tell the food seller you haven't paid. That will be even more embarrassing for you." Trapped and humiliated, Kofi did as they demanded. With each plate he stacked, a piece of his dignity fell away. He left the gathering with a heart heavier than the load he carried, walking slowly back to his home as the setting sun cast long shadows before him. When he arrived home, Amma, perceptive and loving, immediately sensed his distress. "Kofi, what happened?" she asked, her voice gentle as she took his hands in hers. Kofi sighed, the weight of the day's events pressing down on him. "My friends treated me poorly today because I am not as wealthy as they are," he admitted. "But it doesn't matter. I will always do my best for you and our children." And so he continued day after day, rising with the sun to work fields that would never bear his name. Despite the scorn of his peers, Kofi remained steadfast in his commitment to provide for his family. His love for them was an unbreakable shield against the arrows of disdain thrown by others. Yet the hardship continued to grow heavier. Kofi's reputation for diligence made him sought after as a laborer, but fair payment became increasingly rare. Those who employed him would delay, offering excuses instead of coins. "Come back tomorrow, Kofi," they would say, only to repeat the same words when he returned. His wealthy friends added to his burden, asking him to perform menial tasks that stripped away at his dignity. One particularly scorching day, Kofi approached. Jabari, hunger gnawing at his empty stomach, to ask for a loan to feed his family. Jabari's laughter was sharp, cutting through the air like a blade. "If you want money, Kofi, you must clean my compound and wash my clothes." Each word was a small wound, but Kofi, thinking of his hungry children, swallowed his pride. The sun burned high overhead as he scrubbed and cleaned, his back aching and his spirit wilting. When Jabari finally paid him, the amount was insultingly small, barely enough for a single meal. Yet Kofi accepted it without complaint, the faces of his loved ones driving him forward. Another time, after working from dawn until dusk on another friend's farm, Kofi stood waiting for his payment, his limbs heavy with exhaustion. "I don't have the money right now," the man said dismissively. "Come back next week." Frustration bubbled within Kofi, but he suppressed it. What choice did he have? His family needed him to be strong, to endure. As the harvesting season approached, Kofi saw an opportunity. Chief Addo, the wealthiest man in the village and owner of vast farmlands, would need help with his harvest. Working for the chief might bring better pay and more respect. With determination in his heart, Kofi approached the chief's impressive compound. "Good morning, Chief Addo," Kofi greeted respectfully, his voice steady despite his nervousness. "I would like to help with the harvest on your farm. My two sons, Kwame and Ni, can assist as well." Chief Addo, a man whose wealth was matched only by his cunning, studied Kofi with calculating eyes. "Very well, Kofi," he said finally. "My farm is extensive, and I need all the help I can get. You may start tomorrow." Hope flickered to life within Kofi's chest. Perhaps this was the beginning of a change in his fortunes. The next morning, before the first light of dawn touched the horizon, Kofi and his son set out for Chief Addo's farm. As they worked, harvesting crops, filling sacks, and storing produce, Kofi felt a renewed sense of purpose. His sons worked alongside him, their young faces set with determination that mirrored his own. Together, they formed an efficient team, their collective effort yielding impressive results. Days stretched into weeks, and still they labored under the hot sun, sometimes through driving rain, never complaining, driven by the hope of fair compensation. Finally, the harvest was complete. Kofi looked at the neatly stored crops with satisfaction, a sense of accomplishment washing over him. "We did it," he told his sons, pride evident in his voice. "Now, let's go and collect our payment from Chief Addo." When they found the chief, Kofi respectfully requested their due. Chief Addo nodded and handed over a sum that represented only a third of what they had earned. "Here is part of what I owe you," the chief said smoothly. Return tomorrow for the rest. Doubt flickered through Kofi, a shadow crossing his weary face. This was unusual. Chief Addo had never before divided payment in such a manner, but he accepted the money with thanks, trying to suppress the unease that bloomed within him. That night, as his family celebrated with a modest feast purchased with their earnings, Amma noticed her husband's distracted gaze. "Kofi, why are you troubled?" she asked when the children had gone to sleep. "Did something happen at Chief Addo's farm?" Kofi sighed, the burden of his concerns heavy on his shoulders. "Chief Addo didn't pay me the full amount," he confessed. "He told me to return tomorrow for the rest. It's unusual, and I'm worried." Amma embraced him, her touch conveying strength and reassurance. "Don't worry, Kofi. You've worked hard, and everything will be fine. Let's enjoy tonight with our children." Kofi nodded, trying to set aside his concerns for the moment. He knew he would need to return to Chief Addo the next day, and despite his misgivings, he held on to hope the following day as Kofi approached. Chief Addo's impressive compound, a mixture of anticipation and apprehension, stirred within him. The chief greeted him with unexpected warmth, a broad smile stretching across his face. "Ah, Kofi, welcome back. Come, sit with me. Let us share food and drink before we discuss business." Chief Addo gestured toward a table laden with delicacies that Kofi rarely tasted. Hesitant but unable to refuse such hospitality, Kofi sat down. As he ate, a sense of unease grew within him. Why this sudden generosity? What did Chief Addo want? After they had eaten, the chief leaned back, his eyes gleaming with a light that sent a chill through Kofi. "Kofi, you have worked hard all your life," he began, his voice smooth as honey. "You deserve more than just a few coins for your labor. I have an opportunity for you, a chance to become wealthy without all this physical toil. You just need to visit my old friend who lives at the edge of the forest." Kofi's heart quickened, a mixture of hope and suspicion swirling within him. "Chief Addo, what do you mean? How can I become wealthy without working hard?" The chief smiled, a predator's smile that didn't reach his eyes. "There is a way, Kofi, a way that requires only a small ritual, but no bloodshed. You're getting older, my friend. Soon you won't be able to provide for your family through physical labor. Think about it." A cold weight settled in Kofi's stomach. This sounded dangerous, possibly involving dark practices he wanted no part of. "I don't know, Chief Addo. This sounds risky. What kind of ritual is this?" In response, Chief Addo reached into his robe and withdrew a large bundle of money, more than Kofi had ever seen in one place. He handed it to Kofi, whose fingers trembled as they closed around the wealth. "Here, take this," the chief said. "It's 10 times what I owe you. Consider it a gift, a small taste of what could be yours. Take your time to decide. There's no rush." Kofi's eyes widened at the sight of so much money. With this, he could feed his family for months, perhaps even buy a small plot of land. The temptation was overwhelming, a siren's call that drowned out the warning bells in his mind. "Thank you, Chief Addo," he managed to say. "I will think about your offer and let you know my decision." As Kofi walked home, the money felt like a burning coal in his hands. His mind was a battlefield of conflicting thoughts. The prospect of wealth without labor was tempting, but the mysterious ritual made him wary. What price would he ultimately pay? When he arrived home, Amma's eyes widened at the sight of the money. "Kofi, where did you get all this?" she asked, her voice a mixture of awe and concern. Kofi explained everything, watching as his wife's expression shifted from surprise to deep worry. "Chief Addo gave me this money and offered me a way to gain riches easily. He said it involves a ritual, but no bloodshed. I don't know what to do, Amma. It's so much money, and it could change our lives." Amma listened carefully, her face reflecting her inner turmoil. "Kofi, this offer sounds too good to be true," she said finally, her voice gentle but firm. "We have always lived honestly, and worked hard for what we have. Be very careful. Easy riches often come with hidden costs. Kofi nodded, knowing she was right. I will think carefully before making any decision, he promised. We must not rush into anything. That could harm our family. That night, sleep eluded Kofi. He lay awake, staring at the ceiling, the bundle of money hidden safely, but weighing heavily on his conscience. The promise of wealth without work was alluring, but the unknown risks kept him cautious. What kind of ritual did Chief Addo speak of? And what would be the true price of such prosperity? Days passed, and still, Kofi wrestled with the decision. The money was a constant reminder of the potential wealth that awaited him. He thought of his family, of the opportunities wealth could provide for his children, of the comfort it could bring to Amma, of the respect it would command in the village. The temptation grew stronger with each passing day. One evening, as the sun descended below the horizon, painting the sky with hues of orange and purple, Kofi made his decision. He would accept Chief Addo's offer. The hope of prosperity for his family outweighed his fear of the unknown. He told Amma of his choice, seeing the worry in her eyes, but feeling resolute. I will go to the forest edge tomorrow and meet this old man for the ritual, he said, his voice firm despite the turmoil within. This is for our future, for our children. Amma looked at him, her eyes filled with concern. Kofi, please be careful, she pleaded. Our family's happiness means more than wealth. Promise me you'll return safely. Kofi embraced her tightly, inhaling her familiar scent, drawing strength from her love. I promise I will come back safe, he assured her, though a shadow of doubt lingered in his heart. The next day, Kofi made his way to the forest's edge. The trees stood tall and imposing. Their ancient trunks seemed to whisper secrets to those who ventured near. Kofi's heart pounded as he approached the simple hut where the old man lived. The elder who greeted him had a long white beard and eyes that seemed to peer into Kofi's very soul. Ah, Kofi, he said, his voice cracked with age, but powerful nonetheless. Chief Addo told me you would come. Are you prepared for the ritual? Kofi nodded, unable to trust his voice. The old man led him to a clearing within the forest. In the center was a circle formed from stones, with strange symbols drawn on the ground inside it. The old man began to chant, his voice low and rhythmic, filling the air with an otherworldly quality that sent shivers down Kofi's spine. As Kofi stood within the circle, a mixture of fear and anticipation coursed through him. The old man approached, with a small bowl containing a dark, viscous oil. This ritual will grant you wealth without shedding blood, he explained. Apply this oil to your body, and the gods will bestow their blessings upon you. With trembling hands, Kofi took the bowl and began to apply the oil to his skin. As he did so, a strange warmth spread through his body, and the air around them seemed to shimmer with energy. The old man placed his hands on Kofi's head, his touch both burning and freezing. You have been chosen, the elder intoned. The gods will grant you riches beyond imagination, but remember, there is always a price to pay. Be wise and use your wealth for good. With those cryptic words, the ritual was complete. The old man handed Kofi a small pouch filled with gold coins. This is just the beginning, he said. More will come to you. Go now and care for your family. Kofi thanked the old man and left the forest, his heart a maelstrom of emotions. Excitement, apprehension, and a lingering sense of unease. He returned home. His family greeted him eagerly. He showed them the pouch of gold coins, watching as their eyes widened in amazement. Kofi, is this real? Amma asked, holding one of the gleaming coins in her palm. Yes, it is real, Kofi confirmed, embracing his family tightly. The gods have blessed us. Our lives will change for the better now. That night, they celebrated with joy and hope. Kofi felt a sense of relief, believing that his decision, though shrouded in mystery, would bring happiness and prosperity to those he loved most. Little did he know that the true cost of his choice was yet to be revealed. In the days that followed the ritual, Kofi's life underwent a dramatic transformation. His humble dwelling quickly filled with wealth beyond his wildest dreams. Gold, coins, fine clothing, beautiful ornaments, and luxurious furnishings. The man who had once been viewed as the poorest in the village suddenly became one of its wealthiest residents. The villagers were astonished by this sudden change in fortune. Wherever Kofi went, people would stop and stare, whispering among themselves about his mysterious prosperity. Some speculated that he had discovered hidden treasure, while others believed he had received divine blessings. The truth, known only to Kofi, remained a closely guarded secret. Perhaps most striking was the change in attitude from those who had once scorned him. The very friends who had humiliated Kofi because of his poverty now flocked to his side, eager to associate with his newfound wealth. They praised him lavishly, invited him to their homes, and treated him with the respect they had previously denied him. But Kofi remembered their past treatment all too well, and he maintained a cautious distance. At home, Kofi's family reveled in their new lifestyle. His children wore fine clothes and enjoyed abundant food. They now possessed things they had only dreamed of before. Yet amidst the joy, Amma couldn't shake a sense of unease. She delighted in seeing her family happy, but questions about the source of their sudden wealth troubled her. One evening, as they sat in their newly furnished living area, Amma turned to her husband, her eyes searching his face. "Kofi, I'm happy that we have all these things now," she began carefully, "but I'm worried. How did this happen so quickly? Where did all this money come from?" Kofi took her hand, looking into her eyes with reassurance. "The gods have blessed us, my love," he said soothingly. "They've seen our struggles and decided to reward us. I made a promise to them, and they have fulfilled it." "You don't need to worry," Amma sighed, a shadow of doubt still lingering. "I trust you, Kofi, but please be careful. Sometimes great wealth brings great trouble." Kofi nodded, understanding her concern but confident in his choice. "I promise I will always protect our family," he assured her. "We've worked hard, and now it's time to enjoy these blessings." As weeks turned into months, Kofi's wealth continued to grow mysteriously. He invested in land, purchased livestock, and even started his own farm, achieving the dream that had once seemed impossibly out of reach. The villagers' curiosity only intensified, but Kofi kept the secret of his prosperity tightly guarded, sharing it with no one. Despite the luxurious life they now led, Amma noticed subtle changes in her husband. He seemed more distant at times, preoccupied with thoughts he wouldn't share. Though she knew Kofi loved their family deeply, she couldn't help wondering if the price of their newfound wealth was greater than they realized. For now the family enjoyed their prosperity, and the village buzzed with tales of Kofi's transformation. Yet, unknown to them all, the true test of Kofi's choices and the real cost of his wealth still awaited. As Kofi's riches multiplied, his former friends, the same men who had once abandoned him due to his poverty, began to return to his life. They were drawn by his newfound prosperity, eager to bask in the glow of his success and perhaps benefit from it themselves. Each day they would visit Kofi's grand home, bearing gifts and showering him with exaggerated praise. They inquired persistently about the source of his wealth, their curiosity barely disguised as friendly interest. "Kofi, old friend," one of them said one afternoon, as they sat in Kofi's expansive living area, "we are so proud of you. You've achieved so much in such a short time. Please, tell us your secret. How did you become so wealthy so quickly?" Kofi smiled politely, though unease stirred within him. He knew that revealing the true source of his wealth would bring consequences he wasn't prepared to face. "I have been blessed by the gods," he replied simply. "They saw my hard work and decided to reward me." His friends exchanged glances, skepticism evident in their expressions. One leaned closer, his voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. "Come now, Kofi, we are your friends. You can trust us. There must be more to it than divine intervention." Kofi maintained his composure, his face revealing nothing of his inner turmoil. "It is the truth," he insisted. "The gods have been kind. To me, I cannot explain it any other way." But his friends were relentless. They visited regularly, each time attempting new strategies to extract his secret. They flattered him, brought lavish gifts, and even offered to share their own wealth in exchange for his knowledge. "Think of how much we could accomplish together." "Kofi," another friend suggested during a later visit, "if you share your secret, we could all prosper. Our village could become the wealthiest in the region." Still, Kofi held firm, instinctively knowing that the path to his wealth was not one he should encourage others to follow. "I appreciate your offers, my friend," he said diplomatically, "but I cannot share what is not mine to give." As time passed, his friend's persistence began to wane, replaced by frustration and resentment. They gradually distanced themselves once more, but this time their departure was marked by whispered rumors and speculation about the true nature of Kofi's wealth. Kofi felt the weight of their suspicion and the burden of his secret growing heavier with each passing day. Despite the luxury he now enjoyed, he often found himself longing for the simpler, more honest days before riches had complicated his life. The genuine companionship he once knew, though tainted by poverty, now seemed more valuable than all his gold. At home, Amma observed her husband's troubled demeanor with growing concern. One evening, as they sat together watching the sunset from their veranda, she gently placed her hand on his. "Kofi, what troubles you? I see worry in your eyes." Kofi sighed deeply, the sound carrying the weight of his burden. "Our former friends," he confessed. "They keep questioning the source of our wealth. They don't believe it is simply the God's blessing. I cannot tell them the truth, but their inquiries are relentless." Amma squeezed his hand reassuringly. "We must remain strong, Kofi. We have each other, and that is what truly matters. Let them talk. As long as we know the truth, we can face anything together." Kofi nodded, grateful for her unwavering support. The journey ahead would not be easy, but with Amma by his side, he felt capable of facing whatever challenges might come. The return of his so-called friends had served as a powerful reminder that true loyalty and love could not be purchased, and he cherished the genuine bond he shared with his family above all else. With Amma's reassurance strengthening his resolve, Kofi determined to navigate the complexities of his new life, knowing that their love as a family would guide them through even the darkest of times. One quiet evening, as the last rays of sunlight filtered through the leaves of the ancient mango tree outside their home, a messenger arrived at Kofi's compound. The message he carried was brief but ominous. The old man from the forest had summoned Kofi. A chill ran down Kofi's spine as he read the words. He knew instinctively that the summons could only mean one thing: a demand. The following morning, with dread weighing heavily on his heart, Kofi made his way to the forest's edge. Each step seemed to require more effort than the last, as though his body resisted the journey his mind had committed to. When he reached the old man's hut, he found the elder waiting, his expression grave and unyielding. "Kofi," the old man said, his voice as ancient and immovable as the mountains in the distance, "the time has come for you to fulfill your part of the bargain. The gods demand a sacrifice." Kofi's heart plummeted, fear clutching at his throat. "What kind of sacrifice?" he managed to ask, his voice barely above a whisper. The old man's penetrating gaze seemed to pierce through Kofi's soul. "You must sacrifice your only daughter Adwoa to the gods. It is the price for the wealth you have received." Horror washed over Kofi in a suffocating wave. His knees weakened, and he staggered backward as though physically struck. "No, not Adwoa. She is my only daughter. I cannot do this." The old man's face remained impassive, Unmoved by Kofi's distress, "If you do not fulfill the god's demand," he stated coldly, "you will lose everything, your wealth, your sanity, and ultimately your life. The gods will reclaim their blessings, and you will be left with nothing." Kofi felt as though the ground had disappeared beneath his feet, leaving him falling through an endless void. Adwoa was the light of his life, kind, gentle, and loved by everyone who knew her. The thought of sacrificing her was unbearable, a nightmare from which he couldn't awaken. "Please," Kofi pleaded, his voice breaking with desperation. "There must be another way. I cannot harm my daughter." The old man shook his head slowly, his eyes cold and unfeeling. "There is no other way. You have 7 days to make your decision. If you do not sacrifice Adwoa willingly, the gods will take her themselves, and you will suffer consequences beyond imagination." Kofi returned home, his mind a tempest of fear and despair. He couldn't bring himself to share this burden with Amma. The thought of telling her was too painful to contemplate. That night, sleep eluded him completely. He paced the floor of their bedroom, the old man's demand echoing relentlessly in his thoughts. Sacrifice Adwoa. How could he even consider such a heinous act? Yet the threat was clear: refuse, and he would lose his mind, his wealth would vanish, and his secret would be exposed to the entire village. The shame would be unbearable. During the daylight hours, Kofi watched Adwoa as she moved about their home, her laughter like music that now pierced his heart with each note. "She's my only daughter," he thought desperately. But then the old man's warning would resurface. "You have 7 days, or the gods will take her themselves." In his darkest moments, terrible thoughts began to form. "I still have 2 sons," he reasoned, trying to justify the unthinkable. "They can carry on the family name." Even as these thoughts arose, Kofi was horrified by them, disgusted with himself for even considering such a path. But fear of losing everything, fear of madness, fear of divine retribution, pushed him closer to the edge of an abyss from which there would be no return. Amma noticed his turmoil, her concern growing with each passing day. "Kofi, what troubles you?" she asked repeatedly, but he couldn't bring himself to tell her the truth. He simply shook his head, murmuring that everything would be fine, though he knew in his heart that nothing would ever be fine again. As the days slipped away, each heavier than the last, Kofi's mental anguish intensified. On the 5th day, with his heart shattered into countless pieces, he made the unthinkable decision to follow through with the ritual. The fear and the old man's threat had broken him, leaving him feeling as though he had no choice. He desperately hoped that somehow this terrible act would protect the rest of his family, but the decision tore at his very soul, and he knew he would never be the same again. That night, with trembling hands, Kofi prepared the dark concoction as instructed by the old man. Each movement felt as though he were moving through thick mud, his body rebelling against the commands of his fear-addled mind. When the potion was ready, he called to Adwoa, who was playing in the courtyard of their home. "Adwoa, come here," he said softly, his voice barely steady. She ran to him, her smile radiant with trust and love for her father. "Drink this, my dear," he instructed, holding out the cup. "And use this oil. It's very important." Adwoa hesitated, looking at the strange drink with curiosity. But her trust in her father outweighed her caution. "Okay, father," she said simply, taking the cup from his hands. As she drank the potion and began to apply the oil, Kofi's heart broke into ever smaller fragments. When the potion took effect and Adwoa fell unconscious, Kofi gathered her in his arms. Each step toward the forest felt like he was walking on broken glass, the pain of his decision cutting deeper with every movement. Kofi reached the clearing where the final part of the ritual was to take place. He laid Adwoa gently on the ground, her face peaceful in unconsciousness, unaware of the horror about to unfold. He took a deep, shuddering breath, his hand trembling violently as he prepared to complete the unimaginable act with the mortar that the old man had prepared. "I'm so sorry, Adwoa," he whispered, tears streaming down his face as he knelt beside his beloved daughter. The weight of his decision crushed down upon him like a mountain, threatening to obliterate his very being. Just as Kofi was about to proceed, a piercing scream shattered the silence of the forest. "Kofi, no!" It was Amma, her voice filled with terror and disbelief. She had followed him, her instincts warning her that something terrible was about to happen. The sound of her scream echoed through the trees, awakening the village from its slumber. Villagers, alerted by Amma's desperate cry, rushed toward the forest with torches illuminating their way. They found Kofi kneeling over the unconscious form of Adwoa, the implements of the ritual scattered around them. Strong hands quickly restrained Kofi, while others carefully lifted Adwoa. Amma fell to her knees beside her daughter, tears flowing freely as she cradled Adwoa's still form. "What have you done, Kofi?" she sobbed, her voice breaking with the weight of betrayal and grief. The villagers quickly took Adwoa to the healer, hoping to counteract whatever had been done to her. Kofi remained behind, his heart shattered beyond repair as the enormity of his actions crashed down upon him. The wealth, the respect, the comfort, all of it now seemed hollow and meaningless in the face of what he had almost done to his own child. That night, Kofi was bound and kept under guard in his own compound. The villagers watched over him, their expressions a mixture of anger, pity, and disbelief. How could the man they had known all their lives, a man known for his kindness and devotion to his family, be driven to such a terrible deed? Amma spent the night at the healer's hut, never leaving Adwoa's side, her tears falling silently as she prayed for her daughter's recovery. The betrayal cut deeper than any physical wound. The man she had loved and trusted, the father of her children, had been willing to sacrifice their daughter for wealth. It was a truth too painful to comprehend. As the first light of dawn broke across the horizon, the villagers gathered outside Kofi's compound. Their voices rose in a chorus of disbelief and anger as they learned more about what had transpired. Adwoa remained at the healer's hut, where the wise woman worked tirelessly to reverse the effects of the ritual. "Kofi must face justice," declared one of the village elders, his voice solemn. "We must take him to Chief Malik, bound and surrounded." By the villagers, Kofi was led to the chief's palace. His head hung low, the weight of his guilt crushing any resistance. The villagers whispered among themselves, their eyes reflecting a mixture of anger and sorrow for the man they had once respected. In the grand hall of the palace, Chief Malik sat upon his throne, his expression stern and filled with disappointment. The villagers presented Kofi before him, explaining the terrible events of the previous night. "Kofi, is this true?" the chief asked, his voice resonating throughout the hall. Kofi, weakened by the ritual's backlash and consumed by remorse, fell to his knees. "Yes, Chief Malik, it is true," he confessed, his voice breaking. "I was manipulated by Chief Addo. He promised me wealth if I performed a ritual, but I did not know it would lead to this." Chief Malik's eyes narrowed at the mention of Chief Addo's name. "Chief Addo? Explain yourself, Kofi." With trembling voice, Kofi recounted the series of events that had led to the previous night's horror. He spoke of his initial meeting with Chief Addo, the ritual with the old man in the forest, and the immense pressure and fear that had driven him to such desperation. "The wealth came at a terrible price," Kofi said, his voice breaking with emotion. "Chief Addo disappeared after I accepted his offer. He knew what he was doing. He used me." Chief Malik listened, his expression darkening with each revelation. He turned to his guards, his voice sharp with command. "Find Chief Addo. He must answer for his actions." But when the guards searched for Chief Addo, they discovered that he had already fled the village, leaving behind only the chaos and destruction he had orchestrated. "Kofi," Chief Malik pronounced, his voice heavy with judgment. "You have committed a grave sin. But since you fortunately did not take the life of your own daughter, thanks to your wife's intervention, I recognize the manipulation and fear that drove you. Your punishment will be severe, but your life will be spared. You will spend your remaining years in prison, where your wife and children may visit you, but you must work to atone for your actions." Kofi bowed his head, accepting his fate with quiet resignation. "Thank you, Chief Malik," he whispered, tears flowing freely down his face. As the villagers dispersed, their hearts heavy with the weight of what had transpired, Amma returned to the healer's hut where Adwoa was slowly recovering. She knew their family would never be the same, but she held on to hope that they could find a path toward healing, even if that path would be long and difficult. Kofi was led to his prison cell, a profound sense of regret washing over him. He had lost everything he had worked so hard to build, the love and trust of his family, his freedom, and his dignity, all for the empty promise of easy riches. The wealth that had once seemed so valuable now revealed itself as worthless in comparison to what he had sacrificed to obtain it. In the solitude of his cell, Kofi vowed to spend whatever remained of his life atoning for his sins. He prayed that one day his family might find it in their hearts to forgive him, though he knew he could never forgive himself for the path he had chosen. As Kofi lay on his simple prison bed, the sounds of village life continuing beyond the walls that confined him, he found an unexpected measure of peace. He had paid a terrible price for his mistakes, but he hoped that his story would serve as a warning to others about the dangers of greed and the true meaning of wealth. The tale of Kofi spread throughout the village and beyond, a powerful reminder that the love of family and the integrity of one's character were treasures far more valuable than any amount of gold or material possessions. Though Kofi spent his remaining days in captivity, his heart found some solace in knowing that his family had forgiven him and moved forward to build good, honest lives. And as you reflect on Kofi's journey, his triumphs and failures, his moments of strength and weakness, perhaps you might find yourself considering the true nature of wealth in your own life. What treasures do you hold most dear? What price would be too high to pay for material gain? In the quiet moments of contemplation that follow this tale, you may discover insights that, like precious gems, illuminate your path forward. May Kofi's story remind us all that true riches are measured not in gold, but in love, integrity, and the bonds that connect us to one another.